Hello, listeners, and welcome to a new episode of Business Compact, the podcast for founders, seasoned business owners, or everybody else who is interested in learning about the world of international business. In each episode, we will explore topics related to the creation, growth, and globalization of businesses, from founding challenges to international growth opportunities. Our guests will share their insights, personal opinions, and lessons learned along the way, inspiring you to take a closer look at each individual discussed topic. My name is Tobias Kerkhoff, and I'm the General Manager for Internationalization at Wannabe International Business and your host for this episode. I hope you enjoy the upcoming conversation, and as always, if you have any comments, need support for your international business, or want to be on this podcast as a guest too, you're welcome to contact me under my email shown at the beginning of this episode. Finally, of course, feel free to subscribe to this podcast and our newsletter. In accordance with the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, the Latin American and Caribbean region has become an emerging global hotspot for entrepreneurial activity. Just think of Guadalajara as Mexico's Silicon Valley, or the commitment and investment of big tech companies like Netflix, Uber, and Google in Colombia, for instance, due to the local tech talent. Consequently, it's not surprising that German Accelerator opened their first local office recently in Buenos Aires as the hub for Latin America. Not to forget Chile, playing a crucial role in the startup environment. In the last decade, before the pandemic, the world of Chilean entrepreneurship has grown constantly, providing innovative solutions to challenges like the climate change, clean energy, nutrition, or healthcare issues. So I thought it was a good idea to invite one of these founders from Latin America. The company received funding from Chile's economic development agency, CORFO, and was also selected to participate in the Emerge Americas 2021 Startup Showcase in Miami, among other recognitions. Joining us on today's episode is a female founder from Chile. In 2020, she has decided to start her journey as an entrepreneur, improving breast cancer prevention by raising the awareness. According to the World Health Organization, in 2022, there were more than 2 million women diagnosed with breast cancer, and almost 700,000 died. As you see, prevention is crucial. Welcome, Josefa Cortés. It's a real pleasure to have you on our podcast.
Hi, Tobias. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Could you tell us a little bit more about yourself and Palpa?
Sure. My name is Josefa. I'm a professional designer. I'm 27 years old, and currently I lead the team at Palpa, a company I founded in 2020. On a more personal level, I'm the youngest of 4 siblings, very close to all of them. I grew up surrounded by entrepreneurs, so for me, it was always a viable life option. Palpa was born 5 years ago when I was in university finishing my design degree. I decided to focus my thesis on breast cancer because of a very close person to me, Jovita, who felt something on her breast, but she kept telling herself it was just a fat lump and ignored it. And years later, she was diagnosed with a 4th stage breast cancer. I wanted to focus on this issue because there are so many women who don't recognize breast cancer in time or simply aren't aware of the exams they should be doing. Especially women under the 40s, women like me, for example, who don't have access to mammograms, and the only way they have to detect changes is through breast self-exam. Practically no women does it every month. So at that time, I decided that through design, I would create a product to help women remember this technique in their routine, but also to help us understand better how an anomaly feels and make more easy breast self-exam itself. So that is how I designed Palpa, an educational device that can be used in the shower to train breast self-exam and to remember it also. You fill this silicone breast with liquid soap, and inside of it, you will be able to feel a tumor, a simulation of a tumor. And while touching this fake breast, the soap will come out through the sponge, so you can massage your body and then try to find something similar as the tumor in the product, but in your own body. So that is a little bit about me and Palpa.
Thanks for your introduction. Many startups result from university activities. There are plenty of cases where former students decided to set up their own business together. One of the most famous examples is Facebook with Mark Zuckerberg and his former colleagues. And as you've already mentioned, you decided to create Palpa. It was a university project. Could you tell us why and when did you decide to start your own business? Was this idea already before the university or definitely came up to your mind during your studies?
Yeah, definitely came up to my mind during my thesis, like during that time. 5 days after presenting my final project, I was invited to participate in a university competition where I had to present the product with a basic business model to a jury from the US. And if I won that, I would go to Miami to present the project to hundreds of people at a large in-person event, the one you already introduced, Emerge Americas. So that's when I decided to turn it into a professional business because I had the opportunity to go to the US to showcase the product. And at that time, I had only a prototype that barely worked. So I was going to focus now on developing it in a full-time job and start applying for different funds to start growing and to hire also some people because I was a solo founder. Then the pandemic came and the event was clearly postponed. So I was only able to go 2 years later. The good thing is that by then, Palpa had already grown significantly. So that is when I decided to make Palpa grow and to dedicate my full-time job to that.
All right, I understand. And if I'm correct, you're not only present right now in your home market, but also in Spain, for instance, in Europe.
Yes. Well, since 2020, at that time, it was only me. I released the first version of the product. Till now, well, the growth is very significantly. Now we are also in Spain and starting to make plans in the US.
Yeah, makes sense. Breast cancer prevention is a worldwide phenomenon or a worldwide issue and challenge. So at least here in Germany, apart from Berlin or Munich, it's not so popular to be a founder. Might be related to our educational system, might be a cultural thing, or because we have plenty of well-paid jobs. Honestly, have you ever regretted not being an employee?
Ooh, I think this question has two answers. My first answer, I would say no, because what I've learned over the years leading Palpa is something I find hard to believe. Very hard, I would have learned this elsewhere. So, because I have to handle very complex issues that I wasn't prepared for, from intellectual property to business models, negotiations, legal, financial aspects, topics that were far from what I had studied, which was design. So in that aspect, Palpa has prepared me comprehensively to face all kinds of situations. That's why I'm extremely grateful for this experience as a non-being an employee. On the other hand, I believe there will always be the thought of wanting to be employed, mainly because there is security behind that decision. When you are an entrepreneur, you live in constant uncertainty, which can sometimes cause a lot of stress, especially when a team depends on it. However, it's something that you adapt to and learn to embrace and enjoy the process also. So if I had to choose only one answer, it would be no. I don't regret not being an employee.
Starting a journey as an entrepreneur is always challenging, as you've just mentioned, and includes, for example, many sleepless nights, need for venture capital, assuming responsibility for everything, or build and develop a team. According to your own experience as a female founder, what are the main obstacles at the beginning of this journey?
I believe the main obstacles when starting to be an entrepreneur, in my case at least, weren't so much due to being a female founder, but rather for two reasons. First, being a solo founder, and secondly, lack of experience. The lack of prior experience working in another company can sometimes work against you when making strategic decisions. However, I believe that if you surround yourself with the right team and advised by a good board, you can still make very grounded decisions. On the other hand, being a solo founder is more challenging because there are times when you feel like throwing in the towel or don't see the light at the end of the tunnel clearly, and having someone supporting you in that sense is crucial. But I've been fortunate to find that support in my team. But yes, it could have been easier to have started this journey alongside someone else, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's a very common practice to start a business with a partner. And it's also very beneficial to have already gained some working experience. For instance, in the consulting industry, many consultants, after gaining a certain level of experience or seniority, they decide to run their own consultancy later on and leave, let's say, for example, the Big Four. Do you think that we need more founders? And if so, why?
Yes, we absolutely need more female founders, all kind of founders, but in special female. Despite the increasing attention and incentives for investing in female founders or showcasing more success stories, I believe this is still a topic that needs more emphasis. It's crucial to have more women leading teams and projects. Why? First, because women bring a unique perspective to issues that have never been addressed from their viewpoint before. Or they may look to solve problems that only women experience, which historically haven't been solved, such as menopause or women diseases like breast cancer. So, on the other hand, I think it's important to have more and more role models of female founders because empowers others and encourages them to take the risk when they see potential ways to success. So, we should continue to encourage women to lead teams and be founders all around the world, I think.
I have to admit this was a rhetorical question. I totally agree. We need more founders because they will develop the next generation of hidden champions, for instance, here in Germany, family businesses or multinationals, by doing so, creating jobs, fostering innovation, and guaranteeing well-paid jobs. As I've
For sure.
already mentioned some minutes ago, being a founder or entrepreneur is not as popular in Germany as in Latin America or the United States. In accordance with an official statistic of the OECD, almost a quarter of Chile's total working population are independent workers, whereas in Germany, it's not even 10%. Do you have any explanations for this remarkable number of your own country?
I believe one explanation for this trend is that Chile is a developing country which opened up a field of needs that are currently unresolved and serve as motivation for many entrepreneurs. And you have also a lot of different topics you can work on. For example, in all these natural resources, clean tech, as you told us before, like there are so many opportunities to innovate in those areas in Chile because of our geographic and how is our country. Additionally, Chile has become an innovation hub in the last 10-15 years at a Latin American level, thanks to initiatives like Startup Chile, CORFO, attracting talents from other countries also, and significant investments, allowing these independent professionals to start their own companies and create more jobs and local impact. So, however, I think Chile remains being a country with significant inequality, but that creates also new needs that must continue to be addressed. And I think the creativity and innovation that we have in our country is very, very unique.
And again, I think it's a cultural thing. We are lacking a culture of failure here in Germany, which is something fundamental for every startup, encouraging learning through experiments or just trial and error method.
Yeah, for sure. In Chile, being an entrepreneur is a very viable way to live. So I think it's also very cultural.
Since many of our listeners are independent workers and entrepreneurs too, could you share some advice with them? For instance, in my own opinion, one of the most challenging issues for any entrepreneur is building a team and deal with uncertainties.
Yeah, I believe that one of the most challenging aspects is indeed leading a team and creating a culture around it. However, I'm convinced that it is also the most rewarding on a personal level, for me, for example. So while it requires a lot of dedication and learning to lead people, much of it is learned along the way during the experience. So in my opinion, the best tip is to create a culture where everyone shares the same purpose as when the company was founded. In Palpa, for example, by far the most important aspect for each person who joins the team, besides having the necessary skills or knowledge, is to be driven by the cause behind it. It's about getting up every day in the morning and fully understand the mission. This allows people to want to be part of a team with a long-term vision where beyond the financial aspect, they are dedicating their time and effort to something valuable, primarily expressed by the founder.
It totally makes sense to me. And this aspect leads to our last question. The dream or ultimate objective of some startups, not all of them, is a quick exit strategy by becoming a unicorn as soon as possible. It's understandable, and I don't want to judge it. Still, there are other reasons beside monetary incentives. What does success mean to you and your company, and where do you see the company Palpa in 5 years?
Sure, that's a great question. Initially, one might define success as something very abstract also. Can be financial prosperity or achieving an exit with a good return. However, I believe that the greatest success lies in the whole process of it, in the small goals that are achieved, because they truly bring us closer to the ultimate goal. In the case of Palpa, our dream is to someday conduct the largest global campaign for breast self-exam education in less developed countries, for example, India, where women are dying more about this because they don't have access to early detection. So to reach that point, we know we need to go through many stages before, like becoming profitable, growing, establishing partnerships, and so on. That's why and this is also a tip, why we set annually, quarterly, and even weekly goals, because in that way we can see the success we are achieving in the process and how gratifying it is to look back and see how far we've come. Personally, everything has already been worth it for me. When I started this project, started as a more personal project because of this case that had breast cancer. I always told myself that the day a person is safe thanks to Palpa, then everything will be worth it. Today, we have 15 cases of women who have detected their cancer thanks to Palpa. So for that reason, we have already achieved success, in my opinion. And what remains is to reach the big dreams of continuing impacting more and more women and in 5 years, maybe we can be training breast self-exam in schools, in countries where there are no access to mammograms. And I think the definition of success is very relative to the purpose of the company. In our case, impacting women is like our biggest success.
Thank you very much, Josefa. Unfortunately, we have already come to the end of today's episode. All the best for you, Palpa, your mission, of course, your dreams, and I'm sure we will meet soon again.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I hope you enjoy it.